Barney and the Backyard Gang is a piece of history. It was the debut of a character that would take the world by storm, as well as a series that put forth so many things that would be utilized and furthered throughout the franchise's lifetime. At the same time, it's also a series that would barely ever be referenced after its run, eventually leading to its final departure. Let's talk about it.
Oh, Michael, look what I found! Barney the dinosaur! How'd he get in there? I'm going to put him right here so he can watch our show.
Barney and the Backyard Gang is often fondly remembered as the first. Barney the Dinosaur makes his stay in American pop culture through this set of 8 home videos. From 1988 to 1991, Barney himself would see an evolution. From a dark-colored, deep-voiced Tyrannosaurus
Dinosaurs can't skip rope too well. My tail always gets in the way.
to one friendlier both in appearance and voice.
I'm so glad you wanted to show me your school. What do you do here?
Knowing they had something special on their hands, the small Texas-based creative team, the Lions Group, filed the Barney and the Backyard Gang trademark with the U.S. Trademark Office in October of 1989. Lions did the best they could to improve on their work and to shop Barney around as far as possible. This would eventually lead to PBS reaching out to the group specifically in hopes that they could bring the big purple reptile to television. This would be 1991, not only being the first year the Backyard Gang would be officially registered as a living trademark, but also the year that the final tapes of the Barney and the Backyard Gang series would be finished and released, these being Barney in Concert and ending with Rock with Barney. By this time, Barney had gone through his third reimagining, now being the finalized design that would eventually be carried over into the PBS series. In April 1992, Barney and Friends made its way onto PBS television, and just like that, the Backyard Gang was no more. Kinda. Many different elements and aspects from the original home video series were carried over to Barney and Friends, most notably the cast of characters and iconic music tracks. Aside from this, the Backyard Gang would rarely ever be mentioned at all. The kids never mentioned the group name, most likely due to PBS's discretions over the implications of the word gang. The only real reference to a past event that had taken place in the Backyard Gang would be the character Tina referencing Barney getting caught up and tangled in a jump rope.
Yes, but help me get this rope off.
Oh no, he's tangled up in the jump rope again.
Sorry, kids.
During the years of the Backyard Gang, Barney would often make fantastical things happen through the use of his magic words, Shimbaree, Shimbara. These magic words would be brought into the first season of Barney and Friends, but slowly phased out, making its final usage being from this set of 30 episodes and never again.
Shimbaree, Shimbara, Shimbaree, Shimbara.
During a pledge drive for PBS in 1993, the station would actually air a slightly edited version of the second to last tape from Barney and the Backyard Gang, Barney in Concert. In this version, the original opening is removed and instead replaced with a simplified logo. This removes any chance of Barney's original designs being shown during the broadcast. Even still, the song We Are Barney and the Backyard Gang is left in and would be the only time the name could be heard on the station from then forward. As mentioned earlier, Barney the Dinosaur's design went through multiple iterations before he would hit television, but even after the look was finalized, the prior costumes would still be used for various reasons. At the time, there weren't too many costumes to use at all. The original dark-colored suit, the redesign, a much cheaper version meant for use at birthday parties, and the final costume carried into Barney and Friends were all that the team had to work with. In fact, even during the years of the Backyard Gang after the redesign came to be, the original costume would occasionally still be brought out for use at events if needed. Unfortunately, due to the materials and how they were used to create this original costume, it would quickly begin to fall apart, and some photos appearing almost unrecognizable to its appearance in the franchise's first 3 home videos. This eventually led to it being destroyed entirely, with specific pieces recycled into future versions of the character. At the time of this recording, this is the last publicly known photo of Barney the Dinosaur in his original form, having been dated back to the year 1990. The Barney redesign could also be seen at different events outside the series during that time. Body performer David Joyner made his debut with the Barney franchise with the costume we became most familiar with. However, it's thought that he was also in costume with the previous design at least a few times beforehand. A photo was recently unearthed showing a disheveled Barney from the Backyard Gang's second trilogy having been taken in the year 1991 at a Neiman Marcus event. By this time, Barney in Concert had already been released, and Barney himself looks to be nearing his end. The foam showing through, the eyes hanging on, and overall it's very apparent that the costume could not have feasibly held together for much longer. It was clear that the Lions group did their best to get everyone's favorite purple friend to the children whenever needed, regardless of his appearance. Speaking of which, let's talk box art.
Everything's ready.
Good. Now don't you worry. It'll be a great show. I'll watch from back here.
Barney and the Backyard Gang had very specific box art for its VHS packaging, a design very unique to the series itself, generally consisting of the episode title, the series logo, a photo from a key event of the episode itself, and an image of someone in the top left. Originally for the first 3 tapes, being that Sandy Duncan was a large factor in getting parents to buy the tapes back then, she was featured in the top left of the first 3 videos as an eye catch. As more episodes were produced, she declined to reprise her role, and her photo was then replaced with one featuring the new redesign of Barney. Eventually, those original 3 tapes would also have her photo replaced with the same image of the new Barney from 1990. And finally, after Barney in Concert debuted the final look for the character, every single tape produced for the Backyard Gang series would swap the eye catch photo one last time, now being of the final design. Because of the fact that the Barney and Friends TV series cemented how the majority of kids now saw the character, as well as the unfamiliarity with the Backyard Gang as a whole, this change was considered very necessary for any reprints of these early outings. Barney the Dinosaur underwent a quick redesign for a reason. Selling these tapes after the rise of the character meant that kids would want to at least know that this is the Barney they fell in love with, but that he's going to look different in the tape in question. Barney and the Backyard Gang's tapes would continue to circulate through 1992, even after Barney and Friends hit television. Even with no immediate desire to continue the series, any tape on the shelf was a tape on the shelf, when the TV series was airing episodes without tapes of their own. When Barney and Friends began producing VHS tapes of its season 1 episodes, the Backyard Gang style packaging was carried over, almost appearing as if these episodes derived from the prior home video series. This would be the case for releases such as the season 1 episode Happy Birthday Barney, renamed Barney's Birthday, and the VHS exclusive Barney's Magical Musical Adventure. In 1993, once more demand for new VHS releases was apparent, the Backyard Gang box style was no more. Instead, Lions decided to streamline the package design with a style more eye-catching than before. Also in 1993, the first 3 home videos in the franchise would be printed for the last time. It was clear that with the Barney brand nearing its peak, these original 3 debut videos were such a departure that continuing to have them circulated was in no means a priority. Despite this, it would not be the final time Barney's Backyard Gang would see release. Later that same year, Barney's Waiting for Santa was on store shelves again, but now with packaging. They just put some empty VHS tapes on a shelf. Later that same year, Barney's Waiting for Santa was on store shelves again, but now with new packaging. Barney in his design from the video is nowhere to be seen on the packaging at all, instead being his then current appearance from the TV series. Although the box would explicitly state that the packaging was a redesign of an earlier release, the Backyard Gang is not mentioned at all on the front nor the back of the box. What's also interesting is that this release would be prominently advertised alongside other Barney home videos at the end of certain tapes during Barney and Friends' run, including Barney in his past design.
In Waiting for Santa, Barney and all of the Backyard Gang take their new friend Derek on an exciting adventure to Santa's workshop at the North Pole.
Starting in 1995, as part of the Classic Collection line of releases, many different standalone videos from Barney's recent library would make their way onto home video, including certain outings from Barney and the Backyard Gang. These being the entire latter half of the Backyard Gang series put out as part of this classic line the year following. Just as before, every box would be redesigned entirely, featuring Barney in his then current look at that point in time. Unlike before, however, even though the Backyard Gang is omitted from the front cover, it is mentioned on the back, although not always directly from the story description. Except for in the case of Barney in Concert, in which the name was very prominent on the back. And also this tape was released one final time in the year 2000, but with new packaging again, because why not, I guess. Can I just say it was very bizarre to see previews playing for the newer Barney videos at the time, and then the intro would play and it's just...
Please stay tuned following this presentation for previews of other Barney home videos.
Clickbait. These releases would continue to go around nearing the end of the 90s. Hi, this is Hedge here. I just want to say that I hate when people do videos like this because it always starts some unnecessary confusion within the fan base. For whatever reason, Barney fans love doing the, here's Barney in concert, but if it had the same previews of stuff that came out in 2005, but they never state that it's an edited video, people end up being like, wait, they released a Backyard Gang tape in 2005? What? Why? And it's like, no, it's literally something that someone edited together, and it's just like, I don't know, man, you do you, but seeing stuff like this is so annoying because I'm always like, yo, what? And then I click on it and see that it's fake, and I just like the video and leave. Classic Collection would mark the final push by Barney's creative team to get Barney and the Backyard Gang out to the public before ultimately deciding to move on. With a theatrical film off the popularity of the TV series being put out in theaters in 1997, the show itself running strong as it was, as well as the brand now being under the helm of Lyric Studios, there was no real reason for the Backyard Gang to make a return, and the production crew knew this. Because of this lack of desire, the Barney and the Backyard Gang trademark was left dormant with no material for more than 6 years. With Barney's team not filing a renewal, the trademark was officially abandoned and cancelled in July of 1997.
Goodbye, Tina. Remember, I'm always here. And if you need something special, all you have to do is make a wish, and I'll be there.
I know, Barney. That's why you're so special. Love you.
Love you too.
Barney the Dinosaur created a path that many children's programs would follow from then on. He brought smiles to millions across the world, and it started very small. A short home video series you could pick up at the store was all it took to create an icon. Today we're still learning new things about this 30-plus-year-old legend. Him, his love, and his Backyard Gang.
What do you guys do around here when I'm not around?
Did you hear that? Someone needs help. But who?
Hi there!
Year 2022 marks the 30th anniversary of Barney and Friends, the series that launched the stardom of Barney the Dinosaur on television. Today, we're shining a spotlight on the franchise by taking a look at the first season of this program, the one that started it all, to see what it was all about. The watch through done for this was something very interesting and eye-opening for me personally, as I'd grown up with a lot of this season, but had never before sat down to watch it all the way through. So much was familiar, yet so much new, and I wanted to share my experience with all of you.
It's really and truly finally here! Yippity dippy hip hooray!
Buckle up and hold your Barney close, because we're on stage. Barney and Friends, the first season.
Hi Mom, hi Dad, I'm Barney the Dinosaur.
Barney and Friends hit the air on April 6, 1992. It's not the easiest thing to come across someone that doesn't know the base premise revolving Barney, but for those unfamiliar, Barney is a stuffed dinosaur toy residing at a school. Through the imaginations of young children, Barney then comes to life to care for the kids, teach them lessons, and play. Coming off the heels of Barney and the Backyard Gang's final VHS outing, it should be no surprise that the new program would bring over elements from its predecessor. This was of course done for a variety of reasons. To save on time, to save on production costs, but also to breathe a sense of familiarity for those who'd known the show prior. One of the most notable aspects of this would be its characters. Out of all of the kids from the latter half of Barney's Backyard Gang videos, Amy, Jeffrey, and Adam would be the only few who would not make appearances in the PBS series. Michael, Tina, Lucy, and Derek would all make their way over, whilst new characters would be introduced as series regulars. These characters being Min, Sean, Tasha, and Kathy, who made her first appearance just 1 year beforehand in Barney and the Backyard Gang Rock with Barney. Baby Bop would also become a series regular. The kids themselves are great, with an attempt made to give them a level of personality similar to those from the Backyard Gang home videos. Their acting is fine for the production they were a part of, and they all bring their own charm to the episodes. Tina carries herself with the presence of someone who'd been with Barney for a long time, leading the rest of the group on different occasions, which makes the most sense. She at times can also be heard referencing memorable moments from Barney and the Backyard Gang, as a little nod, but not in ways that would confuse viewers unfamiliar with the past series.
Barney, Barney, test the Are you on Oh no! He's tangled up in the jump rope again!
Sorry, kids.
Michael is also shown to be that of an older kid helping the younger ones out, whether it be creating projects or giving ideas based on his previous interactions with Barney. Sean is obviously the youngest of the bunch, and early on would often look towards his older cast members during dance routines, or even just for reassurance. Derek, for some reasons, during different songs will just speak the lyrics rather than singing them, which I thought was a little strange, but I mean, he's cool. I've always really enjoyed Derek. Lucy has easily the best acting out of the main cast of human characters. She's a natural, and it's very much a pro when it comes to her age at the time of filming. But that doesn't mean it's without its cons. Given that Leah Gloria was 14 in 1992, there are a good amount of times in which the entire cast is in the frame, and you're just looking, being like, yeah, she might be a little too old to be here right now, but yeah, it's fine, whatever. But Lucy being with her sister Tina is something the show needed. It added a sibling dynamic that could be played around with, and it was just wholesome in general. Kathy is delightful, curious, carries her teddy wherever she goes, and has scenes that could just absolutely melt your heart to pieces. Min is wonderful. Pia Hamilton's acting is phenomenal, and her excitement towards just the concept of imagination, I think, is what always made her my favorite character. Also, there was one time where Baby Bop was leaving and Min just got kind of mean for no real reason, like at all.
No, I'm tired from the hot cold song. I want to go night-night. Naps? Yuck. Bye-bye.
What the... Bro! Tasha loves surprises and is only brought into the series about halfway in. She's the new kid and learns about the others as they learn together. Barney himself is exactly as friendly as he had been in the home video series prior. In some instances, he's actually written and presented as somewhat of a lovable doofus, which is interesting.
I just don't understand what could have happened.
Barney!
Yes, Michael?
You're holding the map backwards. The wards are on the other side.
Barney!
Just kidding. Okay.
His mentor role is strong, and he gives off the vibe of an imaginary teacher with each passing episode. While there are times that it feels Barney's ad-libs can be a bit too much, specifically during songs, you can tell that the voice, Bob West, and body performer, David Joyner, are growing their connectivity as the show goes on. In early episodes, Barney's mouth movements are more sporadic, as Joyner struggles a bit to predict West's different inflections. However, in time, the puppeting improves, and West begins to test whether or not he can relate to Joyner when Barney should perform leaps into the air with vocal build-ups.
Then maybe you could hold the egg and keep it warm until it hatches.
Maybe that would work. Oh boy, I always wanted to be a mama hen.
I bring this up as these two performers together are a driving force, making up two halves of the character's personality. Barney would go from a character that at first seemed a tad unsure of himself, to one brimming with confidence and excitement in both voice and actions through the works of both West and Joyner together, and it's truly inspiring to watch. Baby Bop is very baby here. She speaks about herself in third person and is treated like a baby, being taught different lessons by the kids before leaving each episode she appears in. Her role is nothing too huge, but her purpose is served well, and adds an extra little something to the program. With Barney, I've always been of the belief that even just a pinch of something that the kids can call their own is enough to make them interesting, and in the end, they're all just kids. Kathy totes her teddy wherever she goes and wants to fit in, doing what everyone else does. Min hates naps, as kids normally do, and comes from a household of 9, explaining her aversion to sharing her things throughout the show. Lucy is the older sister of Tina, and at times can be seen acting almost motherly to both her younger sibling and even Sean. It's things like this that make these characters as relatable as they can be, and fun to watch, as you want for them to learn and to live lives under what they teach to each other.
Barney is a dinosaur from our imagination, and when he's tall, he's what we call a dinosaur sensation.
Barney's main theme gains a new coat of paint, utilizing the iconic beginning and ending lines of the song, while interchanging the middle portion to fit with the new program. Barney and Friends also carries over songs from Barney and the Backyard Gang. It was very heartwarming to hear an instrumental ring out for a song that was used in the Backyard Gang videos, and recognizing them immediately. Songs like The Happy Wanderer.
A little traveling music, please.
Hiking we will go!
And Six Little Ducks being great examples.
Now let's hear the song.
This duck reminds me of a song.
You mean...
Barney and Friends makes a great effort to introduce new songs as well. My Family is Just Right for Me.
They come in all different sizes and different kinds, but mine's just right for me. Yeah, mine's just right for me.
And The Barney Bag both make their first appearances in this season. Now, of course, with a show of this nature being 30 minutes per program, the biggest majority of each episode is filled with music, meaning an average of at least 10 different songs per show. And not every song is a winner.
Don't get in their car.
No!
Don't take anything from them.
No!
In fact, there's a lot of songs that I believe just make the episodes worse. I mean, the messages are nice, but just the song sucks. I'm sorry. It's interesting though, too, because there are new songs introduced that are kind of cool, I guess, but they just don't really mean anything. Like when Barney grabs a glass of milk and they just start singing about it.
There's nothing like a glass of milk.
That's right.
Nothing like a glass of milk. We've looked around, but I've never found anything better than milk.
Like you can't tell me this wasn't done to pad the episode out. Like what? Why is y'all singing about this? Like who cares?
To me, why don't you run? I see you don't have any gun.
You what?
Music is important and credit where it's due, because there are many staple songs brought to the forefront here that would be used in future outings for the franchise. Some new songs have also even made my favorites list, such as the song about overcoming your fears.
Thunder used to scare me, but that was before Barney taught me that the things that used to bother me really aren't so scary at all.
And even the song involving rhyming different words with those that start with the letter N.
Pickle! Hose! Game! Fun! We're all done!
The crew also made good use of taking songs previously sung in past episodes and repurposing the lyrics to give it a whole new feel and fit with an entirely different episode. A lot of effort was put in to put these songs together for the series, especially factoring in the time crunch the team was on. Even if not every song hit, they were there and they served a purpose, and that's all that really matters.
A star!
And it's just for you!
Twinkle, twinkle.
The first season of Barney and Friends makes itself very apparent that it is indeed the first season. It should only be natural to address the elephant in the room when it comes to the nature of this series of episodes. There's a strong air of awkwardness that fills the episodes unintentionally, especially early on. Whereas the Barney and the Backyard Gang home videos would see the characters traveling to imaginative areas and different sets often, switching to primarily one school setting for 30 episodes would of course prove to be somewhat challenging and different. While it's clear that specific themes are very much put forth as a grounding point in each episode, many come off somewhat incohesive throughout their entirety. It's been stated by former cast members and staff that time was certainly an issue during production, the time crunch affecting different factors of the series that are hard to ignore. Barney's lack of yellow toes when he appears as his plush form is one of the few most pointed out visual aspects relating to the production. However, the biggest issue the first season seemed to face was padding. The amount of times an episode had to have songs repeated back to back in order to fill the 30-minute runtime is too many to count. Some instances being as early as the first episode, The Queen of Make-Believe.
Dance and dance and dance until you all fall down with me! Whee!
After Barney and the crew sing Old King Cole, Barney makes an odd request.
May we do the dance again?
Yes, you may, but the dance continue.
Oh, goody! Here we go!
They could not do this and get away with it today. They literally just sang Old King Cole twice for 3 minutes straight. I know them kids was tired. Another instance being the fourth episode, Hop to It, which is my least favorite episode of the entire season.
That family of jumping frogs you did at the end reminds me of a song about how animals exercise. Let's all do it together.
In which the ending is comprised of the cast pretending to be animals and repeating the same song and routine for 4 straight minutes.
I think we should all sing it again, okay?
At the end of every episode, there is also a segment known as Barney Says. Here, Barney returns to summarize the events of the program and the lessons taught throughout.
Hello again to all my friends. I'm glad you came to play. Our fun and learning never ends. Here's what we did today.
The thing is, the runtime of this segment itself tends to fluctuate and can also be seen as a way to pad the episode out more in order to fill the allotted screen time. These script timing issues make up much of the first half of the season, making it apparent that the staff had not yet gained their footing in this area and can make watch-throughs feel somewhat exhausting.
Here's a square on the table. I see a triangle. I spot a square. It's right there. And there's another circle.
It would not be until the season's latter half that things would pick back up, with episodes using its main theme across the full program without feeling the need to trail off and insert songs only slightly related to the focused topic. So I actually found myself looking to see who wrote each episode because I realized that the show would switch off between Stephen White and Mark Bernthal as episode writers, and I usually enjoyed the ones written by White a lot more. I'd be like, God, this one is so boring. Like, who's responsible? Who did this? Oh, okay, I got you. That, you know what? That makes sense. Never mind. It's also just really funny because I found that the episodes that had Lucy in them ended up being my least favorite of the entire season. And that made me really upset because it's not her fault. And I love Lucy. Wait, I love Lucy. Hold up. I also feel like the episodes with Mark Bernthal showed that he didn't really understand like how to transition from talking into a song, he'd always just have them say, "Why don't we sing this song that we always sing?" And then they would sing the song.
And I love you. Let's all sing our song before you leave. Because love is the most special word of all. Let's sing our I love you song before we have to leave.
Like, you don't have to say that. You can just sing the song. God, that would drive me insane. I hated when they did that. And they did that a lot throughout season 1. This isn't a problem that Barney and Friends just had in this season. They would continue to have that through at least season 3. But it's so baffling. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's just a nitpick of mine. But this isn't even in the script. This is just me going off. All right, back to the program. Whatever. Back to the spotlight. While execution wasn't always the greatest, the messages themselves were genuine. There wasn't a single time in which the lessons taught felt inauthentic or that the theme was hammered in too far. Across the 30 episodes, Barney and Friends went into many different topics ideal for the school setting, as well as keeping the core of Barney intact. Episodes such as Alphabet Soup had the kids relating different songs to the words they'd spell on a chalkboard. In Four Seasons Day, the crew delve into the intricacies of all 4 seasons and what makes them each unique. Anything you'd imagine hearing taught in an elementary school was essentially thrown at a wall and opened up. The diversity of the cast also allowed for language learning. Min, being Filipina, would at times sing songs in Tagalog. Tina, in the same fashion, would do just that, but in Spanish instead. Where Barney and Friends would shine, however, would be the episodes in which imagination is at the forefront, the franchise's bread and butter. The treasure of Rainbow Beard is often brought up, as it sees the friends completing small different tasks in order to unearth a treasure left by an imaginary pirate, played by show writer Stephen White.
Sincerely yours, Rainbow Beard the Pirate.
And Let's Help Mother Goose, Mother Goose is brought out and teaches her nursery rhymes to everyone in order to refill damaged pages from her book.
I want everyone to use their imagination.
That's our favorite game.
It sure is.
The very concept of imagination is something that could not have been shelved aside. Regardless of the new educational elements the show had to take on after hitting PBS, and it's clear that the staff put their best foot forward to maintain it. Complaints would often be thrown around from parents saying that Barney was too sugary, mindless, and free of conflict, when in reality, it's far from it. While a good amount of the time the kids would get along fine, there would be moments where this wasn't the case. The kids had their small spats with each other, and when they did, it was honestly like a breath of fresh air. Barney episodes can be over-friendly at times, so any emotion of this nature is very much welcomed. You're not going to agree all the time, especially as a child. It's what makes us special as humans, and the production crew knew that. When Tasha first debuted, Michael and Derek argued over who'd get to keep an art piece, later making up and deciding that Tasha should keep it, being that it was her first day at the school. While of course, I don't feel these conflicts lasted as long as they should have in order to fully relate to childlike arguments, it's a show, and the time spent on these issues is well within the allotted time they have to fit in. One thing season 1 of this series does amazingly well is its attention to detail and getting you to care for everyone on screen. One example being the episode Playing It Safe. After cleaning up the classroom, the gang head home, but Barney is left as the only toy left on the floor. I remember watching this and out loud going like, wait, did they not? Bro, y'all left something on the... They probably forgot. I don't even think like the producers realized that they literally just left one thing on the floor. And right when I said that, Derek walked back in frame, placed Barney on the table, and laid a bandage on his tail for when he'd injured it earlier in the episode.
There you go, Barney. Now that bandage is just the right size. See you tomorrow.
It's little things like this that are so sweet and just sentimental to me. In Happy Birthday, Barney, Kathy spends the entire show wondering what to gift Barney for his big day. Ultimately, she hands him her teddy and, oh my god, I could cry.
He's a really good teddy. You'll like him.
Kathy is one of the best characters just for this alone. It's selfless and innocent and reflects her character so well.
What I'd really like is for you to keep Teddy. Presents can be nice, but it's the gift of love that's important. And thank you for giving me the gift of love.
An absolute favorite of mine, however, is Caring Means Sharing. Min and Kathy fight over who gets to play with Barney early on.
I feel like a rubber band that's been stretched.
Over the course of the episode, Barney teaches everyone the joys of sharing, and they both make up in the end. Barney then says something that I will forever keep close to my heart.
It's the gift of love, and you can keep it if you want to, but the more you share love, the more you'll have. Just try it.
It's things like this, little things like this again, that make all the difference. Unconditional love is a mainstay and staple within the franchise, of course, but in short bursts it means so much, especially when it's used to help resolve a conflict.
I love you, Barney. Me too. Come on, okay.
Now, I wanted to ease things and end things with the final episode of this season, Everyone is Special. It's honestly amazing how much of a bookend it ends up being. Both episode 1 and the finale begin with Min playing pretend, standing atop the tree stump. Both episodes also enforce the thought that everyone is born special, something Barney had been preaching since the days of the Backyard Gang. The finale deals with the different abilities we all share and what makes us each unique. The entire cast is present as Barney reveals a package delivered to him earlier. As the kids all look to view the item, it turns out to be a mirror, leading the kids to all say something about each other that makes them unique.
Because you are special, and you are too.
You may be noticing that I haven't talked too terribly much about Barney himself, and that's because his role remains the same no matter where he's placed. The kids are the soul, while Barney is the heart. The kids figure out the world and their surroundings, and Barney is there to lead them onto the right path. He's there to show them love and a hand in need, and that's something Season 1 never fails to remember. When someone is struggling, Barney is only ever a few feet away. He isn't real, but in their mind, he's as real as their imagination allows him to be, making him just as present as ever. He's the teacher, he's the mentor, he's the fatherly figure, and he's only a stuffed animal. Season 1 of Barney and Friends proved itself to have somewhat of a rough start, as any beginning series will. But over time, it grew into itself, starting to really gain its footing and understanding of its purpose. 4 episodes would be released under the Barney Home Video VHS line, and later the remaining 26 would be individually put out on VHS as well by Time Life Video. After its initial run, the show would be cancelled, but after fan outcry, more episodes were ordered and the show picked production right back up again. The staff and cast worked hard to bring the big purple dinosaur to the TV screen and started what is now known as a cultural phenomenon. If nothing else, Season 1 of Barney and Friends served as an important stepping stone of trial and error, gradual improvement, and a necessary series, introducing Barney the dinosaur to millions across the world and reminding them all that they're special. Well, would you look at that? I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. I did not expect to be doing this soon after the installment focusing on Season 1. But here we are. After a very brief cancellation debacle, Barney and Friends would be back on the air for its second season in mid to late 1993 with 17 new episodes. Just like with Season 1, I grew up with this season through the home videos released from it, but this one I'd actually seen more of compared to the former. Nonetheless, there was a ton of new content for me to take in, and that's why we're here today. Let's shine our spotlight 29 years back, the second season of Barney and Friends.
The monkey thought 'twas all in fun. Pop!
Goes the weasel!
Barney! Hi!
A new season means a new coat of paint, and that's going to be the name of the game for a lot of aspects of these new episodes. The visual design differences are very apparent yet subtle at the same time. The intro itself features the same track as before, but with all new visuals taken from the new series of episodes and slightly altered timing on the opening animatic. Barney receives an entirely newly constructed plush for his toy form, better fitting his fully realized appearance. The park and classroom also see a makeover. Now, my opinion on this set tends to fluctuate. I appreciate it being both different and familiar, and I love the new wooden play area, but it feels weirdly cramped. There was something about the way the original playground was laid out that made it feel a bit more lively. There was a full swing set, slide, and fire pole, but in the new set, these were replaced with just one big wooden play set. The tire swing has also been removed, despite it still being featured in the intro's final shot, which also still shows Barney from the previous season for whatever reason. Probably because they removed the tire swing and couldn't shoot it again. Also, this season just looks visibly darker, and it's odd. While before the show was very well lit both inside the school and out, the new sets are much darker by comparison. The newly decorated classroom even has a darker wallpaper. I like that it all stands out compared to the past 30 episodes of the show. It makes it more distinct, but I'm not sure on whether I actually enjoy it or not. Now, let's get to the more drastic elements changed.
What do you think it is? Let's go see. Come on.
Baby Bop's size has been reduced. She'd go from being as tall as Barney to about half his height. This was brought up in a question answered by series creator Cheryl Leach back in 1993.
This question is, how did Baby Bop get smaller? And I'm not sure what that question means.
Baby Bop, through children's imaginations, became smaller and smaller over time. So evidently they must have imagined her very well, because this series, in almost every show, she is smaller. So we thank children for helping us with that.
Her height was changed to better reflect that the character is 2 years old, and it looks a lot better. Now, I didn't particularly like this suit all that much in the beginning. Her face is still angled downward, so you can never see her mouth unless she faces to the side. And even when you do see her mouth, it's too much. But as time went on, I gained a greater appreciation for it, and big thanks due to her lovely personality brought on by voice actress Julie Johnson, and the performance by new body performer Jeff Ayers.
I did not lose my blankie. Blankie lost me.
Baby Bop's role here is much more prominent than it had been before. She even has episodes tailored specifically to her, whether it be learning about the different things she can do as she gets older, or even her birthday. The character growing is something that's focused on, and gives her a more special presence in the series.
It's bright yellow, with purple spots, and a bright green tummy.
It's BJ!
Another special presence is of course the arrival of new character BJ, Baby Bop's older sibling. BJ is weird. Not the character, but his arrival in general is a little strange. Although he would first be teased as early as a Barney and Friends marathon from before the new season would air.
Boy, oh, and we'll even have a new friend for everyone to meet.
A new friend? Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I can't say anything about it. It's going to be a surprise.
It would quickly become apparent that the character himself may not have finished production by the time season 2 had started being written. He's not mentioned at all early on, and first debuted very late, appearing first in episode 10. He's not featured in any clips from the new opening, and in his debut, he's not given any sort of grand entrance or announcement. He just sort of shows up.
Look, everybody, it's BJ, my brother! Hey, BJ. Hi, everybody.
His debut episode isn't even focused towards him, it's an episode dealing with Baby Bop's birthday. Because of his late arrival, BJ unfortunately doesn't add too terribly much, his focus being more towards that of Baby Bop from the previous season, but just slightly lesser. He does shine in the episode An Adventure in Make-Believe, in which the crew teach him how to play pretend, however. If he appeared earlier, I'm sure they'd have been able to split the spotlight between both him and his sibling more evenly. Baby Bop receives a ton more focus here as opposed to season 1, and I love that. I do wish BJ had a bit more to do, however. Now I want to talk about Barney last, so let's move on to the human characters.
Thank you, Tina. And now for the weather.
Today's weather looks pretty sunny.
The kids are exactly as delightful as before. And there's not too much more to say about them than that. Michael is now older, of course, only by about 1 year, but he might as well be a grown man compared to the rest of his main cast members.
He said, nice!
Every cast member returns except one. Lucy makes one final appearance with the Barney franchise as a whole in the 11th episode, The Exercise Circus. And with her having been gone all the way through then, it was great getting to see her again. New characters include Julie, Jason, and David, who all have some pretty good acting for their age. The awkwardness of last season in terms of the crew getting to know each other and just being kids in general is a lot less present this time around, and I like it a lot. The crew made great use of writing in little things that the kid actors may have happening in real life as a way of teaching the viewers about these occurrences that they may have going on in theirs. For instance, John David Bennett would need to wear glasses, and as such, Sean was written in early on to mention that he'd be needing glasses. Later on in the series, he just starts wearing them, and would continue to do so for the rest of his run in the franchise. I love little things like this. Any little thing they could add to the show as a learning tool would be considered, and it's wonderful. Now, Barney. Oh boy, Barney.
Oh boy, I love using paint.
I didn't have too much to say last time, and for the most part, a lot of what I said still stands. His role always remains the same, and he's an absolute joy to see on screen, always. However, there were multiple times where I felt he himself was doing way too much.
Honey and biscuits and a big glass of buttermilk, I can't wait.
Barney's pitch gets a bit higher with this season, and with that being so, that also means that he's more excitable. And with that being so, his performance physically is through the roof.
And what fun you can have with those books, oh boy! Why, with one of those books...
It's nothing short of impressive. West and Joyner have nailed their connection, and the puppeting is near perfect. It just seems the performance itself can be overbearing at times. I found myself at different points out loud being like, alright, I get it. It's even at points where nothing is really happening at all.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh boy!
I love Barney, all around and always, and he is great in this series of episodes, but I wish he'd have turned it down just a smidge, just a little bit, that's all, just a little pinch, just a little teeny bit, just a little teeny. On a brighter note, his personality is cemented the most here. The ad-libs have improved, and Joyner adds an amazing level of polish to different scenes. Some even to where you can tell a movement or dance was not scripted, but rather thrown in just at the right moment.
I love you, you love me, we're best friends like friends should be.
It's wonderful, and in that aspect, Barney excels at doing what he always does, making the viewer smile. Let me say right off the bat that this season is an immediate improvement from its predecessor. I began watching only a few days after the spotlight would go live for Barney and Friends Season 1, and I saw the improvements right as Barney hopped on screen.
Hi everybody!
One of my biggest complaints with the first season was the incohesive nature of many different episodes. This of course was chalked up to the production crew not having the most experience with a televised format, as well as the impeding time crunch they had been on at the time. But from as early as Season 2's first episode, the crew show a theme that carries throughout the entire runtime, as Barney and his friends learn about the season of autumn and different fall activities they could take part in.
Autumn, fall, autumn, fall, autumn, fall, autumn, fall, autumn, fall.
Now, this isn't to say that this new series of episodes would be without its share of rough moments. In the episode My Favorite Things, Barney and friends talk about objects they hold close to them, such as Baby Bop's blankie and Kathy's teddy. However, after a while, things trail off. Barney invites a friend over, and they all listen to an unrelated story about shapes for a long time.
You say you won't come out still because no one has on the color green. If you have on anything green, raise your little finger.
I
Okay, they have on green, and they said to me.
It was nice, but also it was like, what did any of this have to do with the episode? These scattered theming episodes are still here, albeit few and far between. I thought it was fine, and ultimately there were also less instances of a song only loosely tied to the idea of the episode being thrown in, and for the most part it didn't seem as if the show was reaching in order to fill and pad out for time. Some episodes also highlight a feeling I didn't really get from season 1, in the sense that when a guest appeared, they felt like a legitimate person, rather than a loose character with a few lines. Save for Patty, of course. The episode Picture This is a big example of this.
I have a friend who loved to draw pictures when he was a little boy. He wanted to grow up to be an artist too. And you know what?
What?
He did grow up to be an artist. Would you like to meet him?
Barney brings in an artist named Tommy DePaola to show the kids his artistic process. Why this man is hanging out with an easel in a playground is beyond me, but I mean, hey, imagination, so he might not even be there, I don't know. As Tommy speaks about the book he illustrated, it's most likely scripted to a certain extent, but his way of speaking comes off as if it's all improv.
Tommy?
Yeah.
When you were a little boy, did you like to draw the same things you do now?
The same things I draw now? Oh, yeah. I like to draw birds and animals and people, fairy tale princesses.
It's as if he's not going off of anything and talking about his work to a real class of children. It's so nice and comfy, and this alone makes Picture This one of my absolute favorite episodes. My only thing is, sometimes Barney brings people out and just don't even explain who they are or what they're known for or what they're gonna do. Like in the episode The Exercise Circus.
Well, hey everybody, look who's here. It's my good friend Joe Scruggs. Hi, Barney. Hi, Joe.
Okay, I had to look him up. Alright, I'm sure he's a popular singer, or at least was in the 90s, so I guess with that in mind, there's gotta be some kids that would have recognized him, right? I guess, I don't know. But Barney doesn't introduce him as, it's Joe Scruggs. He's a great singer. No, he just says that Joe is his good friend. And it's like, that's nice, Barney, but we're after school waiting to get picked up by our parents in the playground, and this stranger just walks out the classroom. Didn't we literally have a song about strangers last season?
Never talk to strangers. That's very good advice.
The wiggle in my knee, and in my seat, and in my feet.
I know he's got to be a great guy, but that's just a man. Anyways.
You can say it once, you can say it again. It's as easy to learn as counting to 10. Hello, hello, hola!
Season 2 has a ton of moments that stand out to me for a variety of reasons. There's a very clear focus on 3 big things that would be important from this point on. One of these is storytelling. Season 1 of the show mainly implemented this through the use of puppet shows the kids would put on, and that would return here as well, just not nearly as prevalent in this format. Instead, Barney would introduce a storybook and read it out loud with everyone. While I wasn't always a fan of just how long they could end up being a lot of the time, that one story about the owl, I'm looking at you.
And?
Owl tried to sleep. Owl tried to sleep.
And?
Owl tried to sleep.
And?
Owls tried to sleep.
Oh my god, stop! We get a lot of story reading and storytelling throughout these episodes. It actually surprised me just how many times this would happen, and I don't blame them. With a character having a voice as soothing as Barney's could be, it makes sense that they do the most with it. Hearing him read to the kids makes it feel as though he was truly meant for it, making it more apparent what it would lead on to be with the Bedtime with Barney radio show premiering early the following year. Another big thing is that the focus on family is also very prominent. BJ and Baby Bop have sweet scenes together, and even share the sister song that debuted with Tina and Lucy prior.
But I know she's always there, and I know she'll always care.
She's my sister. I love my sister.
I'm his sister.
I love my sister.
Grandparents Are Grand is hands down one of my favorite episodes, as it shows the family dynamic between both Derek and his granddad and Kathy with her grandmother. The family dynamic being as strong as it is here is something I felt was noticeably absent from the past season, and well welcomed here, and I just adored the adults on screen. The third thing I made sure to put down is absolutely just the guests that would appear on the show. Every last person that showed up was a delight. They all felt so real and genuine, and in a way acted as a cool-down period for any and everything that had been happening before their arrival. I honestly can't choose a favorite guest appearance just because they were all so wonderful. No guest ever felt as though they overstayed their welcome, as they each had the perfect amount of screen time for what they'd be doing. Tommy and his illustrations, Joe Scruggs and his song, and I know I roasted the man for singing his song for too long, and I still stand by that. But the man was charming, don't get it twisted.
And in my seat.
The grandparents, bless her heart, Ella Jenkins with her ukulele. Oh, I watched the finale featuring her appearance with my partner, and even she was telling me how she wished Jenkins had a show just speaking about her life. Like, it's beautiful.
Shake hands with friends, 'cause it's time to go, and I hope I'll see you another day. It's been fun visiting with all of you. Well, thank you.
All of the guests were absolutely amazing and added their own special something to the show. Now, you can't mention Season 2 without an adventure in make-believe, the episode that went on to be released as Let's Pretend with Barney on VHS. I've done a full review explaining my thoughts on this particularly, but in terms of the television series, this episode should be the poster for what the franchise is all about. Teaching the new character BJ the fundamentals of using your imagination is a brilliantly thought of concept and made for a memorable episode fitted with great writing. The iconic theme Just Imagine would also make its debut here. Now let's cap things off with the finale. The finale, A Very Special Delivery, is another personal favorite of mine, as it perfectly caps off the season. Across various episodes, Tasha would often mention that her family would be getting bigger. Here in the finale, we find that her parents are having twins. The episode is centered around the notion that everyone is special, no matter who or what they are. Sound familiar?
Because you are special. And you are too. Remember?
In the same way Season 1 ended with an everyone is special premise, Season 2 would follow suit and is handled so well. Every dinosaur is even present as Tasha's parents arrive with both babies in hand. Barney would even lead in a new slower arrangement of the song Everyone is Special. It's heartwarming, it's fun, and I honestly couldn't think of a better way they could have ended things off. There's so much to love about what was brought forward here, and Barney would show absolutely no signs of stopping.
And Barney, where'd he go?
Granddad, he's right there.
Barney and Friends would air 17 new episodes from September through October of 1993, releasing certain episodes later on VHS. The year following would prove to be one of the characters' biggest yet, but we'll leave it at that for right now. Season 2 of Barney and Friends, if nothing else, was a strong improvement. Lots of new things were introduced, and lots of new things felt solid. While I can't really say I fully enjoyed doing a second watch through of the first season, I'd fully welcome it here. For such an important series of episodes to me as a kid, it brings a smile to my face knowing that through the episodes in their entirety, even as an adult, their importance still holds strong, making them special as they are.
Now it's time, snuggle up, little one.
In 1994, a radio show titled Bedtime with Barney would air across multiple radio stations across the country. The show, hosted by Barney himself, originally aired primarily on Sunday nights, until eventually being upped to 5 nights per week. Throughout the 10-minute show, Barney would read out bedtime stories to kids as it would normally air at the start of night. Over 40 different bedtime stories would be read out by Bob West as Barney, up until the show's conclusion the year following. Also in 1994, the Lions Group would secure a deal with NBC, allowing Barney to premiere a new video special in a primetime slot. At the time, the Barney brand was at its height, and it seemed no opportunity at that point would be stronger than this. Continuing with the theming of preparing children for bed with story reading, as well as the time slot this new special would air, the new outing was fitted with a name best suited for its premise. It would land on television, premiering live on NBC to millions on April 24th, 1994, under the name Bedtime with Barney, Imagination Island.
Oh, hi there, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to come along, just use your imagination, because we're going to Imagination Island.
Imagination Island would be written by Stephen White, head writer for the Barney brand for 2 years at that time. Because of this, the new special would maintain a structure familiar to the television series counterpart, yet enough to present itself with its own identity. Rather than within the school, the story instead begins at Tasha's house, as she and Min appear to be having a sleepover. Hope Cervantes and Pia Hamilton reprise their roles as Tasha and Min from the Barney and Friends television series. Tasha also seems to be in possession of the Barney doll from the school setting, implying that any of the kids are free to bring the doll home with them at any given time. Tasha's parents, played by J.D. Mosley, and David J. Courtney, also appear as cameos, reprising their roles from the Season 2 episode, A Very Special Delivery.
Mom, before we go to bed, may I show Min my new necklace?
Now be sure to take it off before you get into bed.
I will.
After Tasha is presented with a heart-shaped necklace from her mother, Min reads them both a story involving a storm that takes over a pirate ship out on the ocean. Bro, can you imagine if the doll just like broke apart? Like, who's gonna fix that? You think Jess Nelson works at the school? Like, hey yo, don't worry about it, fam. I got you. He just whips up another one.
Oh no, said the children. It's a storm.
After lightning strikes outside, Barney the dinosaur is then brought to life, which you could say introduces Barney's fear of storms, which I'm sure the Barney Wiki would be more than happy to highlight in the trivia section. Bringing home Barney's founding concept of imagination, Barney reminds the two of the adventures they could have similar to the story they'd read just by pretending.
I'd love to sail on a big ship.
Well, you could, you know.
We could?
Sure, you can do anything if you just imagine. Just imagine, just imagine.
Here's a great spot to highlight the music of Imagination Island. The music is of course handled by the brilliant Bob Singleton. Barney sings a slightly faster arrangement of Just Imagine, a song that first made its debut in the Season 2 episode, An Adventure in Make-Believe. And look, I might be biased because I love this song to death, but this has to be the best song in the entire franchise. It just does so much for Barney as a character, while also enforcing exactly what the entire brand is about. The dance number, choreographed by Penny Wilson, also brings forth the charming and carefree nature of Barney the dinosaur with kids. Something I'm sure the crew felt was very important, considering this special would air late at night on NBC to many who either weren't as familiar with the big guy, or felt a shallow resentment towards him. The vocals of Bob West are spot on, and longtime Barney body performer David Joyner puts on a stellar performance throughout.
Just imagine all the things that we could be. Imagination's fun for you and me.
Barney invites the girls on an adventure, the entrance being a staircase just behind Tasha's closet doors.
I'll go if you will. Okay.
The gang, now fitted with entirely new outfits, end up on a pirate ship set out on the open sea. So I like to imagine Tasha's mom just comes in to check on them, and it's like, hey yo, where are my kids at? And they're just like laughing from the closet like it's the idiot box from SpongeBob. Barney, Min, and Tasha are now set out to find the so-called Imagination Island. But they're not alone. Aboard the ship are characters well known from the Barney and Friends television series, including Derek, played by Ricky Carter, Sean, played by John David Bennett II, BJ, played in suit by Jeff Brooks and voiced by Patty Wirtz, and Baby Bob, the body played by Jeff Ayers and voiced by Julie Johnson. An interesting thing to point out is during the filming of Imagination Island, Julie Johnson was originally not present, as she would be booked with a Broadway production during that time. Carol Farabee had been brought in to fill this role, as she'd been an understudy for the character for multiple Barney productions. However, after the special finished filming, Johnson was then brought in to dub over this original performance.
Bring back
Look, man, I'm sorry, bro. BJ, you know I love you, but I can't stand this suit, man. I'm sorry. Why does he look I mean, it's clear they wanted to capitalize off the look BJ started out with in season 2, like him being taller and everything. But they must have just been like, okay, but he's 7. So he should be shorter so that he can at least scale with Baby Bop a little bit. Boy ain't got no business being Barney's height. Who do you think he is? But then they just took the head sculpt from the taller suit, shrunk the boy down, and stuck the head on, and it don't look right, man. I'm sorry. This got to be one of my least favorite BJ suits, bro. Oh God. Anyways.
The sun is shining. There's wind in our sails, and we'll get there before you know it. If somebody steers the ship, whoa!
BJ points out that they just may have found Imagination Island up ahead, to which Barney and friends decide to hop off and explore the land. Also, the ship got stuck up in a tree because of course it did, which means Barney not only invited Tasha and Min onto a ship which almost turned over, but also caused them all to be stranded on an island when they was literally just at home about to go to sleep and their parents will never see him again. Congratulations. The gang receive another outfit change to better suit their new surroundings.
What is that, Tasha?
It's a shell that you can blow like a horn.
Girl, you just got on this island and you literally just picked that up off the ground. Can you not put that in your mouth, please?
Wow. Hey. Oh, I just love this island rhythm.
Here we're introduced to a brand new song made specifically for the special, That's What an Island Is. Another beautiful track simply explaining the nature of islands as a whole.
It's a little bit of ground with water all around, a mountain in the middle and a jungly sound.
Birds and a breeze in the coconut trees. That's what an island is.
Before continuing, the crew begin to question their way home.
How are we gonna sail our ship back home?
Does anyone have any ideas?
I could drive.
You can what?
I could drive.
Hey, yo, Baby Bop really said, let me drive the boat. Immediately cut back to... BJ and Baby Bop agreed to hop back aboard the ship while the rest carry out on their adventure.
Imagination Island is right this way.
Nearing the end of the long jungle, they discover a large hut and decide to make their way over. This is one of my few nitpicks with the special. The island they find and end up on is supposed to be big and exciting, but that doesn't visually read as well considering there wasn't enough time to fully flesh it out. Of course, this wasn't on the writers or anything, it's just simply wasn't enough time to fit in more elaborate set pieces or details. It's just a tad disappointing the island appears virtually the same as just about any other jungle or forest-filled area that Barney has explored since his creation. That being said, the sets that were built are still just as beautiful as they always are, including the big house that the gang find themselves closing in on. Back on the boat, BJ and Baby Bop are doing things that aren't important. On land, Barney and friends approach this random man's house and are really excited to bother him.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
In reality, though, they're hoping someone inside will be able to help them with repairing their ship.
Oh, let's see if I just turn this here.
Why did he say it like that? I'm just gonna turn this, here we go. Enter Professor Tinkerput, a genius inventor residing in this elaborate house played by actor Barry Pearl. Also, can I just say it's very refreshing seeing a character actually react to a giant Tyrannosaurus Rex directly in front of them. It's something you'd imagine would happen often, yet we rarely ever see in the Barney franchise, mainly because it's always implied that Barney just knows any and every new person they come across because he's Barney. Tinkerput invites the little explorers into his house, where we find he's the creator of various different toys and contraptions, to which he is the only one on the planet to know about, as he refuses to share his creations with anyone.
I built myself for myself, and if you did it, please don't touch.
Barry Pearl gives an amazing performance as Tinkerput, all with exaggerated gestures and wonderful voice work, especially throughout a song specifically for the character, respectively titled Tinkerput's Song.
My name is Professor Tinkerput. You may think it's funny, but I like it very much.
While the dinosaur siblings are aboard the boat and still being very much unimportant, Tinkerput tells the kids he can't help with their predicament as he's entangled in his own, a balloon-making toy that won't function. The machine needs a gear to be spun, with an object that can knock a dial as it spins. We then find out that the necklace Tasha was given by her mother is the perfect size to fit the machine. She offers the necklace and the machine starts right back up again, much to the surprise of Tinkerput, not due to the toy's fixing, but Tasha's generosity. Here we learn the message of this special being not just imagination, but the concept of sharing and lending a hand to those who need it. Realizing the joy that sharing can bring to others, the professor then goes around offering his toys to the kids to play with.
Does it make you happy?
Yep.
Well, and that makes me happy.
The toy Barney is presented with is a giant mobile music maker, much resembling one of those cart pushing machines you see at Walmart. They then sing and dance along to a surprisingly well choreographed arrangement of If You're Happy and You Know It. I'm not gonna lie, they was kind of hidden that, to be honest. Okay. Tinkerput, having learned this important factor of life, seems to impact him greatly, thanking Tasha for her gesture, and announcing his desire to create new toys for children worldwide, as opposed to himself alone. Realizing Tinkerput's dilemma had been solved, the gang decide to ask him again if he can lend his knowledge to help them leave the island, to which he responds,
There is no way to get your ship down from those trees.
Then why are you smiling?
Because I think there is another way to sail your ship. And just wait till you see what it is.
we trying to leave. Leaving Tinkerput's house, they all return to the ship and begin fitting it with tons of giant balloons, straight from the professor's newly fixed machine.
This is super duper. When can we take off?
Whenever you say so, Captain Barney.
Look, these balloons are just what we needed.
Now rising off the balloons, the ship takes off into the sky, with Barney behind the wheel, as they all sail off into the night. In comes what I believe to be the most brilliantly written and emotional scene throughout the entire franchise.
This is wonderful. Who could have imagined that one day I'd sail on a flying ship?
I think I know who could have imagined it.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Just imagine.
The camera pans up to Barney, steering the ship created by the kids' imagination as he sings a beautiful reprise of Just Imagine. There is no better and stronger way to emphasize the message the writers are trying to tell than by having the carefree title character unknowingly bringing the story to an end in the same way that it began.
Imagination's fun for you and me.
Tinkerput returns Tasha's necklace, saying he can make replicas at his new toy workshop in remembrance of her and her friends. Approaching Tasha's home, the professor stops the ship, to which Barney converses with the kids one last time. One would think this is the moment that the famous I Love You song would ring out, but for legal reasons, it literally couldn't. And in this instance, it was better for it. Without going into too much detail, as that's a topic for a future video, in 1994, the Lions Group would be entangled in a lawsuit revolving around the usage of the franchise's flagship song, I Love You. The lawsuit issued by Warren Publishing created complications, forcing the song out of many different Barney productions during that time period, including the Barney's Favorites Volume 2 CD, and even Barney Live in New York City. As such, the song also had to be omitted from Imagination Island. Although this would be the case, this would not stop the production crew from filling that void. Taking its place would be an entirely remade and slower variation of the song, It's Good to Be Home, which first made its debut in the home video, Barney's Magical Musical Adventure.
Whenever you're here to hug and be near, you are so special to me.
Not only would this be a beautiful new arrangement, but a perfect book ending to the story that puts forth the same message as I Love You and allows Barney's Imagination Island to maintain its own unique identity.
Remember, I love you.
Tasha and Min arrive back home before being checked up on by Tasha's mother, finally, and heading to bed. The special ends on Barney being placed back onto the windowsill as the ship piloted by Professor Tinkerput sails off to who knows where. Bedtime with Barney Imagination Island was seen by nearly 8 million viewers the night that it premiered. The special would then be released on VHS as Barney's Imagination Island later that same year. The special was important for a variety of reasons, one of which being the ability to teach and entertain just as the television counterpart would do, even while in a primetime setting. Imagination Island also gave the vibe that the crew members as well as the cast were just having fun, doing what they did best, and never forgetting the lessons that they preached. You have fun doing what you love, sharing it with those dear to your heart, and preaching love. As it lives in the minds of fans around the world, it resides as my own personal favorite home video, one that will forever live deep in my heart, for as long as I can just imagine.
Imagination's fun for you and me.
Oh, please?
Oh, okay.
Music has always been an irreplaceable grounding point in the Barney franchise. Early in the brand's history, Barney and the Backyard Gang would have its own cassette tapes, containing an audio version of the VHS adventures they correspond with. The first 3 videos in the series would be packaged with the cassette, as well as the book, all themed around their VHS counterpart. Once Barney and Friends would hit television in 1992, its popularity would become even more apparent than what was already predicted, with Barney toys selling off the shelves much faster than they could even be stocked. It was clear that with the dinosaur craze having taken over the country, the music contained within the program itself could do numbers. Which brings us to the topic of this look back installment, Barney's favorites.
I'm having fun.
Barney's Favorites Volume 1 is an album released in August of 1993, right near the ending of Barney and Friends' Season 2 production period. Volume 1 would be taken up by and published by SBK Records, who would put out both a CD as well as a cassette version of the release. The album served as a 27-track compilation respectively themed around the CD's title, being a selection of Barney's favorite tracks. Many staples would be included in this Sorry, I just got an Instagram notification. Many staples would be included in this release, such as the Barney and Friends main theme, My Family is Just Right for Me, as well as the signature I Love You.
Won't you say you love me too?
The tracks all consist of music heard throughout the Barney and Friends catalog. However, because the series at the time was known for incorporating familiar children's songs commonly heard at schools and daycares, this in turn would make up much of the release's track listing, such as The Ants Go Marching, Bingo, and Itsy Bitsy Spider. The music and vocals were handled almost entirely by the main crew behind the Barney brand. Bob West and Julie Johnson would be behind the vocals of Barney and Baby Bop respectively, while the arrangements would be handled by Bob Singleton, who had composed the songs exactly as they'd been heard from the main series. On top of this, many of the main cast of kids from the TV series at the time would lend their voices to these recordings, including Brian Epps, Hope Cervantes, Leah Gloria, Jessica Zucha, and Lauren King. Hey guys, this is Hedge. I recorded the audio for this video back in December, like late December, so I've been sitting on this for a while now, but I came back because I found out something really kind of odd but interesting about this CD. So it's very apparent that a lot of the masters used in the CD were made specifically for the episode that they'd be used in, as opposed to just a standalone track. And I think the biggest example of that is the song There Are 7 Days. You know, the one where they're saying there are 7 days in a week. Now, although the song was used both in the Backyard Gang episode, Barney Goes to School, and then also in Barney's Birthday, the master that they used for the CD was the one from Barney's Birthday, which means that at the end of the song, in the CD, they also scream, Barney's Birthday? Question mark?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Barney's birthday.
I just thought that was kind of odd, because you would think they would at least use the one from Barney Goes to School, as that one, at its core, just a standalone track. You can use that for anything universally. But the Barney's Birthday one, they just end up shouting Barney's Birthday for no real reason. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Continue. Not only would Barney's Favorites Volume 1 be named the best-selling children's album of 1993 through 1994, but it would also go triple platinum, having sold more than 3 million units, a feat that would be celebrated with plaques that can be often seen in the background of Bob West's live streaming space. It wouldn't be too long before a follow-up would be fulfilled, as on the same day 1 year later, Barney's Favorites Volume 2 would be set on store shelves. Unlike its predecessor, this second volume would instead be published by EMI Records, and not only utilized funds from PBS for its production, but funds accumulated from the Radio City live shows put on during that time, as well as Barney's Imagination Island. In fact, this new release would be themed mostly around the newly aired NBC special of the same name, as it would proudly tout in its subtitle. A little pointed out fact is the album art for Barney's Favorites Volume 2 is actually a cartoonish redraw of the stock photo used for Let's Pretend with Barney on home video. With 26 tracks, Barney's Favorites Volume 2 includes a few tracks not present in the past album, such as Everyone is Special,
Everyone, in his or her own way.
Growing, and Good Manners. While this album also contains common children's songs similar to its predecessor, Volume 2 is arguably themed more towards the original tracks made specifically for Barney and Friends, as it would feature many songs from Season 2 onward, as well as new songs from Season 1 that wouldn't make it into an album. Songs such as The Barney Bag,
With imagination and the Barney Bag, we'll see what we can make today. Yeah, see what we can make today.
The Friendship Song,
Being friends is very special. Be a friend and you'll be glad.
and If I Lived Under the Sea are all featured in this release. The song masters featured here are also the exact versions you'd hear played in respective episodes of the TV series. This would also be the case for tracks made for Barney's Imagination Island, which there are 5 of. Barney and the Backyard Gang also technically manages to slip into this release, as songs such as The Happy Wanderer and Good Manners would debut in that series, later be featured in Barney and Friends, but with the exact same instrumental unchanged. Due to the 1994 lawsuit regarding the rights to the song I Love You, the song not only had to be omitted from Barney's Imagination Island and Barney Live in New York City, but Barney's Favorites Volume 2 as well. The reprise of Just Imagine, featured in Imagination Island, would take its place instead.
Imagination's fun for you and me.
Kenny Cooper, Lauren King, and the full cast of Barney's Imagination Island, including Barry Pearl, would lend their voices to the track of Volume 2, eventually leading the album to go certified platinum, selling over 1 million units and peaking at number 11 on the Billboard Kids album charts. Barney would continue to put out albums and music releases as the years would go on, but Barney's Favorites served its purpose, being the first for the big guy, and a classic among fans. Here we are again. Welcome back. We're at it again. We covered the first 2 seasons of Barney and Friends from 1992 and 1993, as well as the video specials that took place the year following. In 1995, Barney the Dinosaur would be back home and on television once again for a new set of 20 episodes. This is probably the one I've been looking most forward to for this series. Does it hold up? Let's take a look. Get comfortable, grab a snack or two, or something, I don't know, and set the stage as we dive into Barney and Friends, the 3rd season.
Hi, everyone!
Season 3 is the most accurate example of a refresh that you can imagine. The intro animatic gets fully updated with a really funny yet confusing few frames of animation, while the opening theme remains the same. The set also sees a whole new look. It's important to note that both seasons 1 and 2 of the series were filmed at the Color Dynamics studio in Dallas, Texas. The show would then move to a new studio in Las Colinas, meaning that an entirely new studio space would be put to use, giving the school setting a bunch more space to work with. The tree is still there, the tree stump is still there, and the wooden playset would also be there, but with a slight freshening up. Just about every issue I had with how the previous season went about the look of the school area has been alleviated with the use of this new studio space. Neither the outside nor the inside feel cramped, and the lighting is so much better. Bright, it's spacious, and it feels a bunch more lively without necessarily having to add anything super substantial. Everything is just absolutely beautiful.
The tree leaves and the bushes are so green and the grass.
By far the biggest addition to this set is the newly built treehouse setting. In the first episode, during a Jack and the Beanstalk inspired segment, the kids climb a tree meant to represent one of the beans planted by Jack, in this case, Sean. At the top, we enter a large treehouse fitted with furniture and a wraparound staircase. This is honestly something the show needed, and adds just an extra area for the production crew to play around with. I love it. Nothing too crazy, but the classroom is also visually different. Things have of course moved around, and with an extra amount of space, there's more room to breathe life into the indoor setting. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The way the familiar locations look here, compared to the past season, is such a massive step up, even if it is still meant to be the same school.
Has the train arrived?
Did I hear a train? Oh, where's the train?
Now let's talk about the dinosaurs. By no means is this anything close to a video on costume evolution, but being as the show refreshed itself so much, I'd be silly not to mention anything related to the way they look now. But I'll keep it as brief as I can, and we'll also discuss the characters themselves as we move down the line. Barney is who we'll talk about last. BJ! As you may recall, in 1993, BJ was introduced into the show's second season as Baby Bop's 6-year-old sibling. Being that he's the elder brother, the idea was to design him taller, being at about Barney's height. However, this idea would quickly be rethought as in 1994 during the New York City live shows, as well as the NBC special Barney's Imagination Island. BJ's base design would remain largely the same, but with the character having been shrunken down, now being only slightly taller than his younger sister. Now, in 1995, BJ appears in Season 3 with an entirely new base design, a new head sculpt, and a new body to better allow for movement. BJ is performed by suit actor Jeff Brooks, who first took the helm as BJ in Barney's Imagination Island after Jenny Dempsey. It's honestly crazy to me to think that the production crew wanted Baby Bop tall, and then decided against it to better suit her age, and then added another dinosaur character and had the exact same change of heart again. BJ here looks so sleek and well imagined and wonderful. BJ is now fitted with a head bobbing mouth mechanic that looks really silly but is insanely practical, and I love it. Baby Bop would also receive a bit of a makeover. No longer with her big round eyes beating out at you, her face is lifted upward and she's got a little mouth mechanism just like her brother. Both siblings feel perfectly integrated into the episodes they're a part of, sharing a fair amount of screen time between them both, and are an absolute delight to see when they appear together. BJ has episodes heavily featuring him, such as the firefighter episode and an episode in which he loses his hat. And Baby Bop has episodes with her influence in mind, such as Classical Cleanup, where she helps clean the classroom after her mess.
Kindest, happiest, and best friends.
Oh my god, I've said so many times before, but this is by far, in my own opinion, the best that Barney the Dinosaur has ever looked. The Backyard Gang, the movie, and anything past this season, even today. Before this, David Joyner had utilized the exact same costume from 1991 that was introduced towards the end of Barney and the Backyard Gang. By 1993, the suit seemed to be nearing its end, the arms yellowing due to sweat buildup, the fleece worn and balling up so much that it's visible and almost distracting in the finale of Barney and Friends Season 2. The costume had been in 2 Backyard Gang home videos, live performances, daytime appearances, 50-something episodes of the TV series, you name it. Barney's Imagination Island was the first to introduce a newer look for Barney in a home video format, which then carried over into Barney Live in New York City. But Season 3 Episode 1 would be the first time we'd see it for the TV series. It's beautiful, it's sleek, he no longer has that rigid boxy and angled appearance, and he's just cleaner. My only slight gripe is that there are times where it looks as though you can barely make out the mouth movements, but that's a very small thing. In Season 2, I took a bit of an issue with the over-energetic nature that Barney would exert at times. But this is no longer a problem. Barney is at a perfect level of excitement throughout here, and I never felt as though he was doing too much or being as overbearing as before. When I say this set of episodes was a breath of fresh air, I truly mean it. While I enjoyed Season 2 quite a bit, I feel as though with Season 3, Barney being slightly toned down made the watch through more enjoyable. He's still super jolly and giddy and excitable exactly as he should be.
Pumpernickel bread.
Pumpernickel.
Pumpernickel, pumpernickel, pumpernickel.
But he's also soft and caring when he needs to be.
Would that be okay, Barney?
Oh, well, Carlos, puppies need lots of love and attention. And if he stayed at school, he'd have to be all alone all night because everyone goes home.
The kids are the kids, and you know what? I'm probably going to end up saying less about them as time goes on. They're always the same, really. I mean, there's not really too much to say, like, at all. Carlos is now part of the main cast after the New York City live shows, and his brother Juan comes with him. Feels fairly obvious that Juan was added in order to fill the sibling dynamic of the human characters after both Tina and Lucy had left the series. I like Juan, but the problem I felt is that there's always some sort of slight conflict whenever he's around. I understand the point is siblings won't always get along, but there were times where it felt every episode they were in together, there would be some sort of conflict.
Play shoes and win.
Hey, I saw it first, Carlos. No way, I saw it first. Come on, that's not fair.
It's just interesting because as far as I can remember, Tina and Lucy very rarely were ever shown to have any sort of conflicts with each other. Same with BJ and Baby Bob. It's nothing huge, just something I realized while watching. While many kids return from Season 2, Michael is no longer part of the main cast, and as mentioned earlier, Tina would also move on along with Derek, who'd both have somewhat of a send-off episode later in the season. Certain new characters including the twin sisters Ashley and Alyssa, and Steven were essentially brought in to get viewers familiar with their faces. As in the season following, the main cast we'd known for the better majority of the last few seasons would no longer be on the show. These new characters don't really have many lines or any real episodes where they serve as important at all. And yep, they're the kids, alright. I was mainly just happy to see my favorite characters come back, like Min, Tasha, Sean, and Kathy. The biggest addition to the character roster has got to be the introduction of Stella.
Did I hear someone say something about flying? Why, I have a wonderful story about flying.
Stella the Storyteller is a woman who appears from a magical door from time to time. She and Barney are good friends, and she's known as a traveler, always bringing her suitcase and different outfits with each arrival. Stella appears to tell stories to the gang whenever she stops by, and this is something the show absolutely benefited from. Stella just being around acted as a nice little cool-down period. She's played by the late Phyllis Cicero, whose talent should not be underplayed. Her acting is phenomenal, not only in its naturality, but in her physical mannerisms as well. We all remember having stories read out to us in our younger school years, whether it be by the teacher themselves or a guest in the classroom, and Stella emulates that to a T. She puts on voices, adds her own gestures, and uses items from her travels as part of the stories she presents.
Well, Paolo was standing there with a big smile on his face, and the king said, "Why are you so happy?" And Paolo said, "I'm happy because I'm working in my bakery."
Her presence always brought a smile to my face, as it never felt like a hindrance. It was never, "Ugh, we're doing this again." It was always, "Oh, Stella, I didn't think she'd be in this episode." Having that almost motherly figure in the form of a main recurring cast member was so nice.
Toodles.
Also, Mr. Boyd was cool too. Mr. Boyd is the janitor that appears in the series. I didn't put him in the script because he appears in like one episode, maybe two. I don't remember. I only remember him from one. And he doesn't really do anything super like interesting, I guess. But yeah, he's cool. Music is wonderful as it normally is. Being that their library is super strong by this point in the show, a ton of new songs are brought back, not even remade or anything, but pulled directly from the past couple of seasons, and I did not mind this at all. They're iconic and perfect just as they have been. It's funny because I actually didn't really enjoy a lot of new songs introduced for this season. There were songs that felt as though they were trying too hard to be a good song. I know coming up with music in a timely manner for a show like this has to be taxing, and it's unfortunate that not many of these new tracks were winners. One in particular, I had a really hard time trying to understand what they were even going for in terms of what the song was even intended to sound like.
Oh, the mail, yes, the mail. It's fun to put a letter in the mailbox.
Some songs I just found to be like flat out awful.
He's my brother, my brother, my brother.
But again, not every song is going to be a winner. There were some that kinda hit. And I was just happy to hear my favorites make a return.
And they always come in twos. 1, 2. We've got shoes.
I Love You is just as nice as before, and they've even gotten a lot better at transitioning into the song itself from normal dialogue.
We can all find a way to help each other every day. It's just another way of saying, I love you, you love me.
Barney from a music standpoint is something I think you'd really have to try to mess up entirely, and I think this season did fine enough. I have to be honest with you all, I've been savoring this watch through. As we looked across each season one after the other, it was inevitable that we'd trek across familiar ground. It's obvious that certain topics explored before would see use once again, and that's fine. That's what's going to happen with a show like this. However, Season 3 jumps out at me in that out of everything we've looked at so far, it feels the most structurally sound. It's become less about the topic being focused on, and more to that of the way it's handled and taught differently. Some episodes also just resonate with me, not specifically because of the main topic, but the vibe and flow of everything in general. Episode 1, Sean and the Beanstalk, may just be the biggest example of this.
I sure wish you'd hurry up and grow big and tall.
Is this big and tall enough, Sean?
Barney!
Sean ponders on why his plant isn't growing nearly as fast as those owned by his fellow classmates. As the gang comes together, Barney and friends learn about plant life and what vegetation needs in order to grow. The episode ends with Barney and friends' newfound knowledge on the growth process of plants, and Barney having his own pot of flowers with his name written on top. The flow of this episode in terms of writing and song introduction is so smooth and happy. I honestly hope my bias towards the songs used isn't influencing my thoughts on this, because that's not really fair. But then again, this is my review, meaning my opinion is the ultimate opinion, so I mean, we go from songs like Growing,
And as we grow a little older, we can do more things because I'm growing, and so are you.
to Mr. Sun,
Please shine down on, please shine down on, please shine down on me.
to the Raindrop song,
I don't care if it never stops. How I love the raindrops. Ooh.
and everyone just seems so happy, Barney included of course.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Again, the topic itself is wonderful, yet the composition surrounding it is what makes it so much better. One thing I noticed about Season 3 is that while Barney still maintains his mentor, teacher-like role, this is the first time I noticed the kids actually sort of playing with him. But Hedge, they always play with Barney. That's the whole point. He's at the school and it's in the theme song. Yes, Squidward, but listen, hear me out. There are moments where the kids will interact with Barney as if he's one of their friends, as in, they're human friends. It's not even anything super substantial, nothing huge to point out, but just small bits of dialogue and physical action that make him feel less like this extraordinary being, and more that of a classmate or a stuffed animal being toted around.
We have lots of fresh air out here, Barney.
Oh, we sure do, man, but all this spinning is making me dizzy. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's something I noticed as early as the first episode where I felt something different was happening in terms of how everyone talked to Barney or addressed him.
We're going to surprise you, Barney. And don't peek.
Oh, I promise I won't. I promise.
Bye.
Again, it's something small, but something that adds on to the series. It's polished, and I think that's what matters most over everything, is that this season feels very well polished.
Pretend you hear two babies crying, Barney.
I think I hear a baby crying.
Two babies, Barney?
Oh, sorry. I think I hear two babies crying.
It also feels as though they enjoy finding new ways of telling a story, as each method implemented before is melded together here at different points. One of the kids will read a storybook with the rest of the gang, Barney will read a story at times, the kids will act out a skit in order to tell a story, and puppet shows would return as well. However, now, with the addition of Stella the Storyteller, we have a whole new way of being able to get a story out of the way, and more to play around with in general. Where in Season 1 I felt this to be a chore, it now feels like a genuine piece of each episode that I welcome fully and wholeheartedly. We get a variety of new things to talk about this time around. There's an episode solely tailored to firefighting, one that's involving what it's like to be at a grocery store, and even an episode focusing on something as minuscule as shoes and the different kinds there are as something to smile at. There's a lot to love and not too much to say in ire. I think my main gripe with Season 3 is the moments in which the show seemed unsure of just what it wanted to do. The episode It's Raining, It's Pouring being a big example. The crew think of rainy day activities. Tasha tells a story. The late Tommy DePaola comes out and reads a story that he wrote, and then they act out another story. Going into the treehouse after the rain, they set up circus-like decorations in order to have men do one 30-second interpretive dance sequence, and then the entire bit is finished. Only throwing salt into the wound, Baby Bop appears, but only for this segment, literally meaning that she exists in the episode to be part of the audience for a minute and a half, and then just goes away. Episodes like this are few and far between, but are the least impactful out of this run of episodes, as it feels as though the production was essentially just trying to get something on air. Season 3 does carry its share of soft, loving moments, just as the past couple would. In the episode A Welcome Home, Min shows off a dog being put into adoption, to which Julie relays that she is also adopted. Later in the show, Julie sings a song called Someone to Love You Forever, a new song written for the series expressing her sympathy with the animal over its adoption.
When you reach out to me, I will always be someone to love you forever.
While I'm not the biggest fan of the new track, the sentiment is something beautiful that I understand and appreciate. The episode On the Move introduces a new character, Kenneth, as the new kid at the school, but also serves as the final episode featuring both Tina and Derek. The gang whip up a scrapbook with old photos of everyone together. It warms my heart not only getting to see these characters again, but the fact that they got an entire episode tailored to their departure is so sweet. This is the part where I briefly speak about the season finale, but this time around, while there is of course a last episode, it's not as definitively a finale as before. Whereas before, the season finale would feature a loose theme centered around the importance of family, or that everyone is special, Season 3 episode 20 instead focuses on airport manners and flying in general. It's different, but I love that we got an episode talking about something like what it's like to be at an airport. Again, it's something different, but it's something interesting, and that's all I could really hope for. Barney and Friends Season 3 would run its 20 new episodes from February to October of 1995. While not part of the TV series, the various Barney home video VHS releases put out around this time are often looped in with this season, being that the intro sequence maintains the same structure as well as the same set being returned to. There were a lot of home videos being produced around this time, including Barney's Talent Show, Barney's Fun and Games, Barney's 1, 2, 3, 4 Seasons, Barney's Sensational Day, and more. Season 3 of Barney and Friends should be remembered not only for the content of its episodes, but also for just how much of an improvement it proved to be on the series as a whole for its time. It knew what it wanted to do, how it wanted to communicate its messages, and how it should teach its viewers. This would be the last time much of the series' main cast would serve as part of the main cast, as mentioned earlier, and I'm glad they were such a big part of my life. The feel of Season 3 is unlike anything before. The confidence the show had in itself was just a joy to witness. Barney's come a long way since its television debut, both on and off screen. Although Barney and Friends would continue for long after 1995, Seasons 1 through 3 are generally solidified as the golden years of the show. The Lions era, if you will. Having this early section of the show's history as part of my own history is something I'm forever grateful for, as it greatly helped shape me and who I am today. It's had its ups and it's had its downs, but in the end, I still love Barney. At the time of this recording, it's currently April 6th, 2022, making it the 30th anniversary of Barney and Friends to this day. It should not be understated how much the character has done for pop culture, for our culture, public television, kids television, and everyone across the world. I want to send a special thank you to the cast and production and crew of Barney and Friends for the past 30 years, anyone that may have had involvement in the series, for doing so much for us and my own childhood. I want to send a special thank you also to my patrons, Emilia and Cameron, and the rest of my lovely patrons for supporting me in this series.
Won't you say you love me too?
Oh, time for a big hug.
For anyone that's not seen the past 3 reviews, you probably should. Over the past few months, we reviewed the first 3 seasons of Barney and Friends in their entirety. From 1992 through 1995, the Barney franchise was owned by the Lions Group on their own. However, in 1994, they'd be renamed to Lions Partnership, now being a subsidiary to a larger company known as Lyric Studios. The future seasons would take on a big refresh in terms of appearance and cast, thus beginning what's now known as the Lyric Era. Starting today, we're taking a look at the first season to where these changes fully took place, Barney and Friends Season 4.
Will this one help?
Barney!
Oh, hi, Jim.
Just to preface, everything, I was born in 1999, but grew up watching VHS tapes containing episodes from the first 3 seasons of Barney and Friends. I also grew up with various home videos that were produced around the time period that the Lyric Era falls under. So while I'm familiar with some faces here, I never really had the chance to watch the actual episodes from Season 4. I knew it was going to be different, but especially with how highly I held the first few seasons of the show, I knew this was something I had to be super open with. A lot of changes were made, even if subtly. Now with Lyric Studios, the team very much was looking to refresh, as mentioned earlier, and many aspects follow through with this. The intro is entirely redone, animations, music, and all. The set is also newly redesigned, after Season 3 of the show overhauled it and used the previous look for the many home videos produced from 1995 through 1996. As mentioned in the previous spotlight, an entirely new cast of kids are brought in, some that were introduced in the past season as small cameos, as well as a few that made their debut in home videos prior. The first episode of this new season is titled The First Day of School, and I honestly can't think of a better way to go about a soft reboot to the show than this. The outside of the school is visually different while still extremely faithful to its predecessor, and considering the kids are younger and fresh faces, it's treated as an entirely different school, essentially because it is. Normally these videos are structured with discussing the visual changes and characters first, then the music and the episodes themselves last, but I want to make a small exception here. The first episode in and of itself is brilliant, as because of its theme, they can absolutely get away with outright bragging about the new changes brought to the show's setting, even if not intentionally. Upon entering the school, the kids are like, wow, this looks amazing, and it does.
Well, Steven, what do you think?
This is really cool.
Oh, it's terrific, isn't it?
The classroom is so much more appealing to look at now. Not that it was a problem to begin with. It's just that now it looks less like a left to right soundstage and more to that of a fully imagined classroom. They even do a wide shot of the whole main area and it is huge. The treehouse also sees a massive redesign. I want to know who built it because it is beautiful. Stella returns and is just as wonderful as ever, but I'm starting to see some cracks. I guess I just sort of started realizing that having a character whose main gimmick is doing one specific thing and having them as a recurring character can become a tad bit tiring. This doesn't detract from her charm and presence in the show, I just enjoy when she comes and does more than just telling a story. Beforehand, she'd come, tell a story, and then leave immediately. Now, I enjoy it most when she tells her story and then does something even as minuscule as singing a song with the rest of the cast before leaving. It's nice. The kids are the kids. Moving on. Actually, no, I will say that in the same way I saw Julie being the best kid actor on the show back when she debuted, Marcus has the best acting this time around, and I usually enjoyed his character most, even though they were all so wonderful. BJ and Baby Bop both had, also his name is Robert, by the way. That was a joke for those who don't understand jokes. You should probably watch another one of my videos where I explain the joke. BJ and Baby Bop are written so well this time around. Baby Bop comes off less than that of a baby here compared to the previous seasons, and more to that of a normal character, meant to be seen as the youngest of the group. She still has her signature voice, but no longer speaks of herself in the third person, and seems a bit more streamlined to the rest of the cast. BJ unintentionally bothers others here more than ever before, and it's actually kind of funny.
I have a request for all BJ all the time.
There you go, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, BJ.
Leaving. Hey, it sure is noisy out here. Hi, everybody. Hey, we're having drum fun now, huh? I don't know what happened.
It doesn't make him any less likable, and I do appreciate them showing that, yes, you can upset people even when you don't intend to. It's just interesting that BJ is the one to demonstrate this most. There's an episode with a guest character called Mr. TikTok, and I don't like him because he's very clearly just a reskin of Mr. Tennigan from season 2, and I liked him a lot more. I don't know why I put that in the script, but I felt like I needed to say that.
But I'll be late if I don't hurry along. Time flies when you are having fun.
New characters Scooter McNutty and Miss Etta, a squirrel and bird respectively, grew on me as time went on. Early on, their puppeting was a bit off, and from what I understand, they were both played by actors that had little experience with puppeteering in general. At first, I didn't think too much of the two, being that they initially don't add much of anything to the episodes they're a part of, essentially just appearing to throw in a quick joke or two, or to briefly talk back and forth about the current goings-on before the show cuts back to the main focus characters. And in the end, they still don't really add much, but I grew to appreciate their inclusion.
It appears the spring have sprung.
That clock will never tick-tock. Nope. Never.
They're charming, silly characters, and they're lovable, so they ended up being pretty great in my book. And also, I'm obligated to relay that her name is Etta because it's like etiquette. Her last name is Ket, so it's etiquette. So you can laugh now.
Wow. Hey, look at this. I bet I could climb to the top of that.
You're already at the top, idiot. If there's anything I can give Barney and Friends here that I feel hadn't been done too terribly well before, it's that it puts emotion higher up as a priority. Time and time again, the show would be criticized for how soft and sugary it could feel at points, with characters always smiling and little to no depth being brought forward. While I feel this critique can be a bit over the top at times, I can understand the concern. Throughout seasons 1 through 3 of Barney and Friends, there would be conflicts, but they would usually be few and far between. And I feel this became even more so towards the latter half, with this being the case, as well as the characters rarely showing any form of emotion not related to joy or a general demeanor. Any sort of depth or characterization that could be given to the cast of kids is essentially out the window. However, in this set of 20 episodes, it's made clear that the writing crew is focusing more on this as we see the kids emote more and more. Things don't always go their way, and sometimes they do get mad at each other, to the point where shouting is involved, while the acting isn't always there to back it up.
Baby Bop, I asked you not to touch my tower. I'm really angry.
The fact that it's written in to begin with is a big step forward. I do wish the characters had more moments in which they overcame these small struggles on their own, though. In the episode Waiting for Mac Rooney, Robert waits for a piece of mail to be delivered to him from his cousin. When the mail arrives, Robert is upset to find out that just about everyone else received mail except for him. Barney checks in on him by the treehouse to find that he is indeed upset, but makes the realization that although he didn't receive any mail, he understands that it could come some other day and that he still had fun. But Robert then credits Barney with helping him come to the conclusion when in reality, he did it himself. I feel this moment wouldn't have stuck out to me as much if they hadn't literally followed this up with them both singing a song about how you could always count on Barney. Barney helped them all to have a great time during the episode, but I feel it would have been nice to highlight that you can do things on your own and come to important conclusions on your own. Baby Bop even sung a song like a couple episodes prior about how she can do things by herself.
Being friends is very special. Be a friend and you'll be glad.
Speaking of Barney and characterization, I do wish they attempted on giving him more of his own character like they started doing with the kids. Barney's always known for being the jolly, upbeat dinosaur, but that's his whole character. From the first VHS release back in 1988 to this point, I don't remember a single time where we've seen him considerably upset, irritated, or anything. It's a weird juxtaposition too, because I feel his voice in any emotion other than just talking or being excited wouldn't work, but I'm not sure if it's because we've literally never heard it or if it just wouldn't fit. He's always come off as the perfect friend, which is nice to think about, but that isn't always a great thing. I love Barney, you all know this, and I will never not love Barney. He's my heart and soul. I do wish we could see more of him being himself and experiencing normal emotions, maybe as a way of backhandedly teaching the kids that everyone can feel happy, sad, mad, or glad. I hope this didn't get too deep or anything. It's literally season 4 of Barney and Friends. I also don't want this to sound as though I didn't enjoy this season because, to be honest, I had an absolute blast during this watch through. Let's talk about this briefly. Season 4 of Barney and Friends would air in 1997. Barney's Great Adventure the movie would also be in production this same year. Both Bob West and David Joyner were off to Canada to film the movie, while Barney and Friends would continue filming concurrently in Texas. This means that voice actor Duncan Brannon would step in to voice Barney during the filming itself, but West would return to dub over his lines when he got back to the States. This also means that someone else would fill in to be in the Barney suit while Joyner was in Canada. This person being Josh Martin. You can redub a voice, but you cannot redub a physical performance, so Martin's movements as Barney were that of his own, and let me tell you, I was looking forward to seeing just how he'd move in the costume, and if it'd be off-putting at all, and it is very apparent the moment he hops on screen.
When I feel happy, I can smile, the biggest smile I know.
Martin does an amazing job at embodying the similar mannerisms to that of Joyner. I mean, it still threw me off, but it was never too distracting. You'd imagine that Bob West's attempt to dub over the lines that Brannon spouted in the episodes he had to fill in for would be distracting as they are, but in reality, they really aren't. I mean, there are times where it feels a little jank.
And we can't see the air, even though it's all around us. But we can breathe the air. Come on, everybody.
But overall, it's really not that bad. In terms of physical action, Josh Martin very much became my second favorite body actor for Barney the Dinosaur. It's such a nice, slight difference that I enjoyed quite a bit. Duncan Brannon has a slightly different cadence in the way he presents himself as Barney, meaning West had to match both that and the movements of Josh Martin in order to keep the flow of everything intact, and without kids at home asking, what is wrong with Barney, why is he talking like that? For what they had to work with during this hectic time, the performances of everyone involved, regardless of how different, is and should be highly respected, and they all did wonderful. Let's talk about the music. Bear with me. Even as a kid, I was not the fondest of the way the music started to sound. Starting from season 4, Bob Singleton would no longer be the main head behind the show's music. This would in turn go to Joseph Phillips.
Keep your eye on the ball now to make a hole in one. Oh, good.
I want to say this first, the music is not bad. It's literally very standard and sounds very good for what it is and the show that it's supporting. My only thing is that Bob Singleton's arrangements were Barney. Barney's instrumentation beforehand was very unique to the franchise. You could hear the instrumental of any song and go, that's from Barney, without hearing any lyrics to it at all. My only thing with the music now is that while it generally does sound pretty good, it almost lacked an identity, in the sense to me that it sounded very just sort of generic.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
All of the staple music tracks brought back to the show had to be redone, and I didn't like a majority of them. This isn't to say that Barney should have kept the music as it was. With a refresh as big as the show had taken on for this season, it only made the most sense for this change to happen. Again, I want to stress that the music is not bad by any means, just to me it felt very run-of-the-mill for a kid's show. While I still ended up preferring the singleton arrangements after my watch through, the new music stylings definitely grew on me a good bit more as time went on. I stuttered during that sentence, don't even pay attention to it. Some tracks even made it into my top 10 songs from the entire franchise up to this point.
I got the sillies, and when you get 'em, you'll be silly like me. I can't stop laughing, as you can see.
The music seems to lack that oomph and impact that previous arrangements had, but at the same time, they still managed to bring a charm of their own.
I'm nearly done, I have to hustle, but not before I show my muscle.
I'll probably have less to say about the run of episodes here than before, and not for any bad reasons whatsoever. I'm actually torn, because season 3 of the show felt so good to move through, and this season felt just as good, if not a bit stronger. It feels a bit more streamlined, if that makes any sense. The previous season did great at staying true to what Barney was, while season 4 feels like a genuinely good show with all characters having a bit more to say and do, as well as flowing better as a series. Just listen to this interaction from the 11th episode, A Different Kind of Mystery.
Red is my favorite color. I like red, but I picked out blue tennis shoes. That's my favorite color.
Oh, really? I like blue too.
Stuff like that, where the conversation doesn't have any real purpose and doesn't lead to anything, but is a vital piece of any realistic interaction between human beings, makes such a big difference in a show like this. Season 3 of Barney and Friends will always be my favorite, not because it was better, but just purely on nostalgia. Honestly, if I were to choose a set of episodes from either season that we've covered to watch in succession, it'd probably be from season 4. It's built so well and fills each episode with a central theme while never feeling as though it needed to reach for something in order to keep the flow going, or episodes that seem like an afterthought. Favorites of mine being Waiting for Macaroni, The First Day of School, Good Clean Fun, and Is Everybody Happy? For a season I was very hesitant to get into as a kid, I was pleasantly surprised by just how much the set of episodes kept a smile on my face, especially compared to the Lions era. Being the first full set of episodes under Lyric Studios, Season 4 of Barney and Friends shakes things up in a great way. It's generally the same ideas and formulas, but just with more added to the pot and stirred up to create an experience that's familiar, yet new at the same time. The next couple seasons we'll cover appear to continue the same formula, and I'm excited to see what will be introduced in these new outings. The Lyric era started off strong, exactly as it should have, proving that Barney the Dinosaur truly does have some staying power. Early 2000s. I'm at my grandma's house spending the night when my grandma points to the cabinet underneath the TV. I looked in and found a VHS case. Barney's Great Adventure, the movie. Already a massive fan of the character, I didn't understand what these words meant. He had a movie? What? She popped it in, and little did I know from that point I'd watch it again and again just about any time I spent the night at her house for the next year or so. I was mesmerized. Now fast forward again many years later, where I devastatingly discovered the internet, where I found out that not only were there tons and tons of people that somehow hated this movie, but the character himself. I mean, that's fine. I mean, your opinion is your opinion, but I struggled to find anyone that held these thoughts for any reasons aside from Barney is weird and Barney is creepy, and again, why? Anyone that knows me and or this channel knows that for the past 4 months I've watched and reviewed 4 entire seasons of Barney's original TV series, so needless to say, even now, despite having not seen this film in well over 15 years, it became beyond strange to see that people still held this baseless sentiment 20 plus years in the future. So I took it into my own hands to watch the film as an adult, with new eyes, and as well as someone who's literally seen 4 full seasons of the original 90s shows freshly for what they were, to see how true to the franchise the movie truly is. We're on stage. 1998's Barney's Great Adventure, the movie. We follow siblings Abby and Cody on a trip to their grandparents' house with their friend Marcella.
Hey yo, is that Penny Proud?
Is that like, I don't know, like the beta logo for this movie? Okay. I mean, it don't look bad. I was just wondering. I don't know.
That's Barney. I know it's Barney. The whole world knows it's Barney, and he's a stuffed dog.
Immediately I noticed that in this world, Barney is very much well known. We're not explicitly told that the TV series exists, but we do see that Barney is available through retail, meaning that anyone has access to a Barney of their own. There are a lot of elements of this film that I enjoy separate from the Barney and Friends series. For one, the adventure aspect. My love for Barney's original home video series, Barney and the Backyard Gang, is grounded in the fact that it was, for the most part, adventure-based. They'd go on magical trips to the beach, the moon, the North Pole, and they'd always be out and about going on adventures and having fun doing things so fantastical. I love Barney and Friends, but when it hit, it basically cemented that aside from standalone home video releases and or special concepts for episodes, they'd always be at the school regardless of anything. The school was the main focus area, and we'd see this episode after episode for, 20 or so episodes a season. With the movie, we revisit what Barney was started on and visit many different imaginative areas with a goal in mind, and it's wonderful. This is not Barney and Friends on the big screen. It's its own feature, and you feel that with Barney's arrival.
Cody, oh Cody. What? It's me, Barney. Won't you come play with me? No.
Cody is portrayed as the cool kid. He doesn't care about playing pretend, soft things, or entertaining anything that doesn't actually exist. He berates the girls anytime they attempt to get him to play with them and their toy Barney. Cody hides the stuffed dinosaur in the shower, teasing them to bring him out by pretending, to which, I mean, come on.
Whoa! Whoa! Towel, please. Thank you, Marcella.
He knows my name.
What I like about this is it's personalized. Both Abby and Marcella are almost starstruck, as if the toy they'd played with their whole life up to this point had finally been realized. Barney and the kids immediately head out to the barn to play, while Cody remains in disbelief.
Real dinosaurs don't talk, and real dinosaurs don't laugh. 'Cause there aren't any real dinosaurs anymore.
Oh, well, I'm as real as your imagination.
Barney's insistence that he knows and understands that he himself isn't real carries throughout the entire film. Cody's reluctance to believe what he's seeing is actually happening is persistent. Not as long as I feel it should have been, however, but we'll get into that.
Barney isn't just a little doll. He's very big.
Oh, sure, he's big now, but you just wait. These fads come and go.
I love the grandparents because they're played by great actors and aren't portrayed like the adults from Barney and Friends. You're going to hear me compare the TV series to the movie a lot because I feel the need to stress that after 5 years of the show up to that point, Barney's Great Adventure is a breath of fresh air. The grandparents know of Barney. They don't know Barney. In fact, they're exactly as one of your own family members if you went to them proclaiming that you and your stuffed animal just had a play date.
You know, Cody, even for grown-ups, the real adventures in life start with a dream.
Hearing Barney speak candidly to someone that denies his existence is on brand to the character and something I wish happened more often. Barney points to a particular star in the sky, and after Cody wishes on the star to have a summer like no other, the star itself turns out to be a magical egg that lands in the barn next to the house. The next day, Barney appears, and Cody says,
You look...
Oh, thank you, Cody, so do you.
I like the unsureness of each other's intentions with these statements because it means that either Barney complimented the hell out of him or he looked Cody dead in his face and cooked him alive. They sing Old MacDonald because they're on a farm. Can we talk about the music? The soundtrack is very much specific to this movie. I love tracks like Imagine and We're Gonna Find a Way. But then there's tracks like Old MacDonald that exist just because it's a kid's movie. It's fine enough, but It almost feels out of place and slows the pace down a bit. At the same time, I don't feel like any song from Barney's library beforehand would have really fit in this film, aside from maybe a slower arrangement of Everyone is Special. No song from Barney's past appears in this movie aside from the obvious one. I mean, we'll talk about it later, and I'm not really complaining, because for the most part, it's pretty nice stuff. The crew find the egg in the barn and notice it glowing. The grandparents relay that a lady named Miss Goldfinch might know something about the egg, thinking the kids are once again just playing pretend. The kids find Barney, who just got done changing the diaper of the baby inside the house. Oh yeah, I forgot that happened.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands!
It's very sweet, and something I feel Barney's creative team could have put in specifically, because it's just a nice piece of character that they probably decided to throw in.
We'll be needing this.
Wait, where are you going?
To take the egg to Miss Goldfinch. Hurry up.
Wait! I want Grandma and Grandpa to see him right now.
Oh, well, but whoa!
This starts the great adventure of the film as they go off to learn about the egg as more colored rings start to glow. The egg ends up getting lost and the crew go on a wild goose chase to not only get it back, but return it to the barn it landed in before all the colors appear and it hatches. This leads them to a parade. Then an inside restaurant.
If all the snowflakes are candy bars and milkshakes, oh, what a snow that would be!
And finally a circus where the egg is thrown by a performer. It starts to rain and the gang are forced inside a tent with no knowledge of the egg's whereabouts.
You don't even want to find it. You never did. No. It was crazy kid stuff.
No.
What's wrong with just being a kid, Cody? What's wrong with that?
I don't understand this part all that much, and it's what I wanted to talk about. Cody's reluctance to believe in Barney and just using his imagination in general is not a gradual thing that gets improved on. There's a very stark, definitive point where you can tell he only wants to adventure, and that's great. We get to see him excited to figure out this magical egg and have fun with the girls, and it's nice. What bothers me is that it would have been a bit more interesting if we were given more of a reason to believe that he wanted to go off and explore, but maybe still had some slight animosity towards Barney and or the belief in his own imagination and what it can do. It also would have made more sense and given more of an impact for Abby's outburst here if Cody still had that hesitance to the girls wanting to find the egg itself. Here as it is with its context, it just feels a bit forced. Nevertheless, we briefly see Barney down on his luck, whether it be the unknown whereabouts of the egg or the kids throwing in the towel. It's brief, but it's there. Emotion. I wish there were more of it for him specifically, but again, it's there and I appreciate that. It doesn't take long for Barney to get them all back on their feet and continue the search.
We'll solve the situation with our imagination.
They leave the circus and end up finding hundreds of hot air balloons, one with the egg stored in a cage with one of the final rings appearing to glow. Out of everyone there, Cody is the one to relay the idea of pretending a tree log is an airplane in order to reach the egg itself. Barney, Abby, and Marcella, of course, all thrown back by this. I love this.
It's gonna take some imagination. Right, Barney?
Right! Yes!
What'd you say?
They all close their eyes and take off to the sky. The egg is let off the hot air balloon too soon, plummeting to the ground, prompting the gang to do just the same. Landing in a haystack back at the barn, the grandparents take notice and head over. The strength of Abby, Marcella, and Cody's collective imaginations lead to the reveal of Barney the dinosaur to the grandparents, to which they can't believe their eyes.
Hey!
Yes, I know. A lot of hay.
Not only this, but they don't even have time to process anything that's going on as the egg is discovered, lost again, and finally landing in the barn thanks to Baby Bop accidentally catching it in her blankie. The egg hatches a small koala-like creature that the characters dub Twinkin. Virtually nothing is known about Twinkin aside from his ability to present the dreams of individuals around him for all to see.
Look, it's me.
Is this your dream?
Yes, and I'm seeing it.
Cody and Barney have a heart-to-heart in one of the sweetest moments of the film.
I think you're pretty cool.
I think you're pretty cool too.
Twinkin travels outside spreading magic, almost as if to bless the house, which that's actually the first time I'm saying that out loud here, and I actually like that a lot. Here, Barney leads them all in singing I Love You, which feels out of place. I honestly would have preferred the song not been in the movie at all. In the same way the song was unable to be sung in Barney's Imagination Island due to a lawsuit, I wish a new song was introduced here to take its place. It feels less like a song that fits the situation and more that it felt added only out of obligation. It's the song everyone knows about from Barney, so we have to sing it. I don't know, it just felt weird. After BJ and Baby Bop leave, everyone is surprised to notice that Barney is also no longer present.
Well, where is he?
Barney wouldn't just leave.
The baby, remembering him from before, notices that not only is Twinkin resting on the swing chair on the porch, but the Barney plush doll as well. Barney's eye sparkles towards the viewer, signifying him winking to the audience, as to say, I was here the whole time, you just imagined it. Now I want to thank my friends Kaylin of Terrific Tributes and Jen for opening my eyes to this perspective, that Barney himself was orchestrating the entire film. In the beginning where Barney tells Cody that he could start his dream by wishing on a star, and points at the sky, he points to a very specific star that appears. And as the star falls, Cody wishes on it and it turns into an egg, thus prompting the adventure. Throughout the film you can see different hints of this. Barney leading them all to different points, continuing the journey that he started, leading them on an adventure they'd never forget. And then of course in the end he just disappears, reimagining himself as a plush doll. Again, as if to say, I was actually here, but you just used your imagination. Wasn't that fun? Also, now that we're talking about the ending, it's weirdly open-ended, and I love that. Barney being depicted as his plush self last brings so many questions. Where do they go from here? They're all okay and intact, nothing bad has happened. They can continue their normal lives now knowing their imagination is strong enough to wish Barney back into existence if they chose to. But also, Twinkin is now a thing. He was never a plush, so what happens to him? I assume he just lives with the grandparents now? Maybe Abby and Marcella take him around wherever they go? What if the news found out? Maybe Twinkin goes back into space somehow? Who knows? Barney's still around. Maybe Barney goes on adventures with him. There are so many questions whether this ending was intentional or not, and I'm kind of fine with that. As I mentioned earlier, I did not mention BJ or Baby Bop, at all, and that's mainly because they don't do much of anything in the movie, and actually carry something I don't like about this film. The fourth wall breaks. The movie starts with Barney, BJ, and Baby Bop talking about how they're in a movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's cute.
Oh boy, it looks like everybody's here.
Oh man, this is gonna be so cool. Oh, I can't wait to eat popcorn and sing along and see the movie.
What I didn't really like is how this continues throughout the movie's entirety. The Baby Bop B-plot is that she's lost her yellow blankie. When she first appears early on, she looks to the viewer asking which way she should look, and it absolutely breaks the pacing.
Do you know where my blankie is? Oh, you do? Oh, where is it? It's this way?
This isn't just limited to her though. Barney also does this before they take to the skies on the tree log. It's a kid's movie, and I understand that they want to engage with the viewer just as to not lose their attention, right? I'm an adult, so me saying this, it really shouldn't matter, and I mean, but it's my opinion. I guess it only bothered me a little bit because they feel very unnecessary. This isn't something that happens in the Barney franchise up to that point. In fact, when it comes to normal home videos and TV show episodes, this would never really happen, aside from the Barney Says segment, which was never really meant for kids anyways, but for the adults that felt the show wasn't educational at all. Again, this movie is meant for very, very, very young children, so, I mean, what are you gonna do? BJ also doesn't really do much of anything. The juxtaposition is so weird, because while BJ and Baby Bop both are barely in the film and don't do much, they're both very instrumental to certain points of the plot. BJ is responsible for catching and throwing the egg out of excitement halfway through, continuing the goose chase to get a hold of it. If he was written out, the movie could have easily ended right there. Then Baby Bop is responsible for catching the airborne egg in her blankie by mistake. If she was written out, the movie would have resulted in a bad ending to which the egg hatches prematurely, ruining everything. Their inclusions very much felt like an afterthought. I do appreciate them at least being here, however. A Barney movie without them entirely would have felt somewhat empty. I do wish they had a stronger presence without their hindrances, but even still, I appreciate that an effort was made to help keep them in and breathe a tiny bit of extra life into the film. Barney's Great Adventure the movie made $12 million in the box office on a $15 million budget. It also would be widely lambasted for the time as well as many years later online. Regardless of the reasons why, this is a movie that I feel is extremely faithful to the core of what Barney is. A story of imagination, love, and adventure. You can experience amazing things by using your mind even if your animosity is blinding in the beginning. Family is family and you all support each other despite your disbeliefs. Again, Barney's Great Adventure is what Barney should look like on film, something of magic and wonder. A few faults, but nothing that brings it out of the ordinary. Maybe someday we'll be able to see the purple dinosaur grace the screen once again. But until then, we can continuously enjoy the love he brought to us so many years ago.
He's telling us he knows what my dream is. It's a special time, a special place, and sharing it all with the people I love.
Thank you to Nerdy Disney, Megly, Common J, Junior the Hedgehog, Emilia, Cameron, and Alicia for supporting the stage.